So once again, the Big Six are back into scalp, having taken Ezri Konsa, apparently for 50 million from Aston Villa to Arsenal. But more importantly, the Newcastle news. Newcastle looking into bringing a midfielder from Man City that could fix our midfield problems. An old favourite of Matthias Jaissle's has been linked from RB Leipzig. And the biggest news coming out hot off the press, Nick Woltemade could possibly make a move back to Germany before the end of this window. We're going to go through all of it. But before we do, I just want to say thank you to everybody that's liked, subbed, commented over the last few weeks. We are unbelievably only 200 subs away from 4,000. I honestly can't believe how great you guys have been. But if you're new around here, get down there, like, hype, subscribe, do all the good things. But most of all, hit me up in the comments. These are great talking points. Whether we'll get these deals done before Liverpool is yet to be seen. But obviously, we'll talk a little bit on Amar Dedic when it comes to these new guys and how I believe this philosophy of players coming through are perfect to fit the model of Matthias Jaissle. Otherwise, let's get into it. So quickly, we're going to skim over my Amar Dedic coming in as right back because I genuinely believe this is a fantastic signing for the football club. And he might not be the elite level, but he certainly brings the ethos and the understanding of the Matthias Jaissle system. And I think this is vitally important for Newcastle. We need players that will gel quickly into this system. And there are going to be certain players that take longer time to understand his philosophy and the way the style in which he wants to play football and the intensity he wants to play football. And I'm aiming this at Jacob Murphy and Anthony Elanga. And purely because I don't think Anthony Elanga, even after a season with Eddie Howe, managed to get Eddie Howe's philosophy. So I'm really hoping this similar style in a different vein, maybe slightly quicker to pick up for some of these players that struggled under Eddie. But the point being, the first linked player, Nico González from Manchester City, and I believe the fee being discussed is around 45 to 50 million. Nico González is only 24. He's a great ball carrier. He's press resistant. This guy looks like exactly what we need. And I think the big thing here is whether we're allowed to get excited. Because I personally didn't want Højbjerg or João Palhinha or some of the other linked to midfield players. But Nico González could be exactly what we're looking for. Pep saw something in him. He saw something that made him want to bring him to Man City. And this lad, while a lot of people think he doesn't get many or much game time, 41 games last season, 2,582 minutes, and 90% of this coming off the bench. Realistically, Nico González could be the fix to our midfield problems. And I watched a video yesterday by Ben from The Noise. If you haven't seen it, go and check it out. He explains the Jaissle system and essentially why Palhinha wasn't correct for this midfield role and why I believe Nico González is exactly what we need in this midfield role. He's fantastic when it comes to holding possession and playing forward and being direct. His ball retention is fantastic. I'm really keen on this one. But again, moving on to the player that Matthias Jaissle, it's whether we go for the Premier League proven or the Matthias Jaissle trusted. Nicolas Seiwald from RB Leipzig. Now, this guy is supposedly available for around 25 to 30 million euros. He played 3,046 minutes last season, getting 2 goals and 3 assists as a defensive midfielder. I look at this link and I really like the player. I understand the trusted He's played in this system, same as Dedic. It would give him two players that understand the philosophy of this system. They understand being press resistant. They understand playing through the lines. It puts a marker in the same way that Eddie Howe brought in players that he knew would put a marker down, like Kieran Trippier, that he could rely on. These players are Matthias Jaissle's Kieran Trippier. They understand the system. They understand the philosophy. He looks like a fantastic player. I'm just not sure we need another defensive midfielder. And he does come into this category of defensive midfield. And I believe Sean Sturr can do that job, which is why I pin my hopes on Nico González without getting too ahead of myself. But then the other big news, and this is probably the one that will take all the headlines at the moment, is Borussia Dortmund are pursuing or are in talks with Newcastle about the possibility of taking Nick Woltemade on loan. And this is a great talking point. Let me know in the comments. And I know as a fan base, we are so divided on Nick Woltemade. I believe Nick Woltemade is a fantastic talent. My only problem is whether he can handle the intensity of the pressing, because I know he can finish. I know the kid's got the technical control, but it's whether the physicality of the Premier League will be too much for him. And I think this is really this is a pivotal point after 1 year. If we put him out on loan, I believe at Dortmund he'll go on in the Bundesliga to be something really special. But it's how we manage that loan option. Whether we get a big, which I don't believe we will, option to buy fee, or obligation to buy, or whether Newcastle can let Nick Woltemade rekindle some form in the Bundesliga before bringing him back to the Premier League. Now, personally, I would really like to see Matthias Jaissle get the best out of Nick Woltemade. And I know a lot of people are 50-50 on him, but we've seen Nick be fantastic. When he first came in under Eddie, he was crazy. The numbers he was putting up in his first 10 games was absolutely unreal. I did a video on it when I first started YouTube, and his numbers stacked up so much higher than Ekitike or Gyökeres or any of the other strikers that were brought in that summer window. But we haven't seen Nick rekindle that form. And I think half of that is due to the moving of his position into midfield and the killing of his confidence. And I do believe Eddie Howe killed his confidence and put him in a position where he never really rekindled that form. Now, whether Nick is strong enough to find that confidence under our new manager or not is yet to be seen. But if Nick does head out, and this is the big question, if Nick does head out to Borussia Dortmund on loan for a season, it will be almost certain that Newcastle will bring in a forward. I don't believe we go the season with Wissa and Asula. And most of all, the big question is, who is that forward going to be? And I want to hear your comments. I want you to tell me, if you had, let's say, 50 million to go and buy a striker in this current climate, who would be the player you would go for? I mean, I still look at the Georges Mikitadze, who I did last time, who we were linked to. I think he's a fantastic striker. He could really tick the boxes. There's still a lot of insinuation that Newcastle might go to Chelsea and try and take a striker from Chelsea. And obviously news coming out from Chelsea that Liam Delap and Nicholas Jackson aren't training with the first team squad. Now, personally, I'm not a fan of Delap at Newcastle. I actually think Nicholas Jackson would do quite well at Newcastle, but I'm not a fan of him. And then obviously there's people like Darwin Núñez, who was linked to Newcastle at the start of the window, who realistically, as chaotic as he is, I think Darwin Núñez would probably flourish under Matthias Jaissle with this style and system. But most of all, let me know. Let's have a chat about it in the comments. Like I say, thank you so much to everybody for liking, subscribing, hyping. It's been an incredibly a roller coaster, as is Newcastle United. It's been a roller coaster of a transfer window, a roller coaster of a month for me, with so many subs, so many likes, and all the comments. And I just want to say thank you to my 7 members. You have been fantastic supporting the channel, and I'm trying desperately to find the time to be able to do something for you to show my appreciation for everything you guys offer to the channel. I'll pop you up at the end, but thanks a lot for watching, guys, and hopefully I will see you in an exciting Newcastle may have brought somebody in next one.